Alright guys, we're back out here working on the SquareBody. Today we're going to try and get the bed off, get the fuel tank out, see what we're working with on the underside of this thing because it is pretty haggard under there. I'm kind of trying to find a parts truck for this thing since the engine is toast in this. I don't really want to put the time and money into fixing this one and have it be subpar. So I'm kind of looking at my options as far as a power plant for this thing. But we're going to get that fuel tank out because it's pretty toasted. I want to get that bed off and see what we're working with on the back end, and we'll see what point we get to. So as you can see, we got the bed pulled. We got that fuel tank out. It is pretty crusty and rusty under here. It's not the best looking. I'm gonna get this thing pressure washed here in the next day or two. Try and clean it up so we can see what we're working with. Let me show you that fuel tank really quick. The brackets were all rusted off. The straps were all rusted. And this fuel tank looks like it was home to some critters at some point. Those little plastic shields that go over it, those little rock shields, they just hold the mud and grit and grime in there and allow these things to rust out. So I think what I'm going to do is replace both tanks, both sending units, fuel lines, the filler necks, everything. So this thing is dialed in once we get a power plant for it. You can see what the frame looks like. It's pretty rusted and crusty. And then the exhaust system on this thing, this muffler has been rubbing on that drive line. It's way off kilter. So I'm gonna have to rip all that stuff out and see what we can do. Just under the bed though, as soon as you move up under the cab, it doesn't look too bad up there. Yeah, there's a little rust, but not as bad. So I'm gonna grab a wire wheel, get a little messy, start cleaning some of this stuff up, see if I can make it look at least a little bit better. And then at some point, we're gonna paint this thing and make it look a little better, kind of stop the rust. first pass on that thing with this wire wheel on the grinder. That thing just ate that right up. That was a brand new wheel. And I'm like completely stuck with all these little bristles off of that thing. I'm gonna clean this stuff up for the night. I had to open up the back door with all the dust blowing around, but I got a good first pass. I need to get a couple more of those wheels so that I can get this thing really good. I may even pop the shocks off, and there's a couple little exhaust brackets that are hanging there that aren't being used or anything. So I'll probably pop all that stuff off, pull some wiring out, and get a good thorough scrub of this frame before we get it primed and painted. But this thing is going to be a slow project. It's not going to be a 1 month thing start to finish. So I'm going to slowly work on this over time and work my way through this. You know, in the back, get this stuff all painted. The plan with this thing is to make it a good, reliable driver. I want to lift it up just a little bit with the engine how it is. If you guys saw in the previous video, we're going to be pulling that out and putting something different in there. So I'm keeping my eyes and ears open, trying to find another engine. But this is going to be a slow and steady process. Make this thing a nice, drivable rig. I don't want this 100% off-road only. I don't want it to go rock crawling, nothing like that. I want it to be a nice rig that I can drive around, drive up to my property, take mom on a date in, whatever the case is. So make sure you stick around.
The next day.
So I went and got an assortment of wire brushes and wheels and sanding discs and all sorts of stuff to touch up this frame. So I'm going to get going on this. I am going to pull this bumper off, pull these shocks off, try and get some stuff out of the way so I can prep this whole thing for paint. So I'm gonna finish this process up, get this thing all descaled. My kid was out here trying to help me for a minute. He couldn't get the trailer wiring plug off, so I'm gonna get that off. I'm gonna get the bumper off. But once I get this thing ready for paint, I'll bring you guys back in and show you what I'm doing. All right guys, it is a new day. We got a bunch of work done on this, got the frame stripped down, ready for paint. Let me show you what it looks like right now.
You know who made it.
I kind of tried to wire wheel this thing and get it as good as possible without sandblasting. I know it is a little hard to get in certain areas, you know, like right in here where there's some tight corners, or you know, down in the spring hangers or something like that. But I tried to do the best I could to try and get it as clean as possible so we can get a good paint job on this thing. And this place is a mess. I got stuff everywhere. Dust everywhere, dirt everywhere. I wish I would have done this outside and not in the garage, because when those wire wheels are going, Dust is flying everywhere. But the stuff I'm going to be using to get this thing painted. This is a system from KBS Coatings. So I got it's kind of a 3-part, 4-part system. I got their cleaner that we're going to use to wipe the whole thing down, get it clean and degreased. And then it's got some rust blast that is kind of a prep spray that etches itself into the metal and gets it ready for paint. And then I got the rust seal paint. I got this just in a satin black. I didn't want it too glossy or anything. So my plan is to start kind of halfway under the cab where I can reach and where those tanks were. And then when we do the engine swap and I have that out and can get that cleaned, we'll do the other half of the frame. But I'm gonna get going on this. Okay, we got that frame all cleaned off. It is looking good. I tried to go over it as thorough as possible, get it all clean, degreased, all that stuff. Now I just gotta wait for this thing to dry, let it dry completely. Then we'll hit it with this Rust Blast etching primer. It's a pre-paint primer, so I gotta spray this on there thoroughly for 30 minutes, keeping it wet the whole time, just spraying all over the place. Once I get done with this, I'll rinse it all off, let it dry for a final time, and then we'll throw some paint on it. And we have got the old gal cleaned up and ready for paint. You can see what that rust blast stuff does. It kind of oxidizes it, gets etched in there, gets it ready for paint. So we're gonna let this thing kind of air dry. I'm gonna roll it in the garage and we're gonna get this thing painted. So let's do it. right guys, we got that wrapped up, got it dialed in. Spent the last 2.5 hours painting this thing. It was quite a chore using this process, but so far the KBS products that I was using on this thing have turned out awesome. I'll try and make sure to put links down in the description if you guys are looking to pick some of this stuff up for yourselves and do on your project. But check this thing out. I hope you didn't look too close. A little teaser for the next video is underneath there as well. So call me out in the comments if you saw what I'm talking about. But this thing turned out awesome. I did paint all the way up until those front body mounts on this thing up underneath the frame rail. So when I do get new gas tanks, it's all painted behind there and ready to go on. But this turned out awesome. Now I just gotta run that factory wiring back for the taillights. Got to address the brake system on the back end of this thing, and we're coming right along. So thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe, hit that thumbs up button, and we'll see you guys next time.